Hello and welcome to the Well Ones Collective. My name is Brie Wollman and I am your guide, your facilitator, your organizer of this space. For those of you who maybe are new to me, or those of you who are meeting me in this new season of life, right? We're those of us who live on in the Northern Hemisphere are emerging out of winter into springtime. We've just passed the quickening. We're still a little bit underneath the energies of the full moon in Leo. Leo happens to be my rising sign. And so I guess I'm meeting you all new in a new chapter, a new season of my life. And so I wanted to share a little bit of an introduction and a tiny bit of my story. I don't want to get too long into it because I have so much more to say in this session. But I wanted to at least introduce myself to you as the space holder here. We're all space holders here. We're all here to meet one another well and in intimacy and in integrity and in transparency. Yes, I'll just leave you with this tiny bit before I introduce myself more. And I'm not able to quote this perfectly because I didn't bring the book with me, such as my humanness. This will be a space for you to be met in your humanness and to meet me in my humanness too, which is messy and imperfect. But I am reading a book called Matter and Desire, an Erotic Ecology, and it is written by Andreas Weber. And I will try to share some of these resources in this space as well. But most recently, I was reading this section where he was describing that nature is fully alive and nature shows up unapologetically in all of its most authentic expression, right? Its gift to us is its authenticity. And it doesn't show up shaming itself. It doesn't show up with a qualification around its emotions. It simply expresses the wholeness of its nature, the wholeness of itself, no matter the season, no matter whether it's expressing itself shabbily or in a fallow expression, if it's dying and decaying, or if it's blossoming and flowering and it feels robust and full of life and vitality. It simply is. And so part of what this space wants to be and how I want to be witnessed in this space as a part of the collective, a part of the community, is one who is seen in all of my humanity, in whatever is most alive for me in every moment. And this is an invitation, a space for you to be here in what's alive for you in every moment, a place that I am aiming to hold in integrity and respect and reverence for each other as expressions of nature, who are reclaiming that about ourselves and reclaiming all of our truth and unapologetically letting that have its stage to express and to transform us. Because to me, being transformed is a natural part of the human process. It's a natural part of the process of all living, all life, right? Life wants to become more robust, right? More diverse. And that diversity in an ecosystem creates more resilience, right? And so as we transform, we potentially get more true to the core of who we are and more at home in the center of our being and our authenticity, which is a fractal, right? A microcosm of the macrocosm of the whole of the planet, of the whole of the universe, of the whole of divinity, the mysteries, that which is intangible, that is non-concrete, right? That we can still potentially come to relate with. And so when we are in transformation processes, which is always, because we are humans, we are always in process. All life is always in process. As we allow those transformations, we can come more truly to who we are And we can come more truly to that sense of belonging and that sense of home and that sense of wellness and that sense of wonder and that sense of oneness and connectivity that is always there, bridging the divides between us. Sometimes we try really hard to create more individuality and more sense of personal power and more sense of control, which is really, in my opinion, and is very well held by a lot of great philosophers, and is, something I've witnessed again and again in my relationships working with people over a lot of years of my life, more than half of my life, and in all stages of life, from birth to death. This fear that we have around our mortality, around dying, is something that creates that power differential, that power dynamic where we're trying to control, to feel safe, to feel empowered, to feel alive. And in fact, when we deny our mortality and we deny death as an important part of life, and we resist transformation, we really rob ourselves of our aliveness. And it's actually it's kind of the antithesis of feeling at home in oneself. And so I believe that our transformation processes, or the erotic process of being a being of creation in the world, human or more than, we are thereby allowing the dream of the universe, the planet, the cosmos, anything that is bigger than us, but essentially includes us and what we are essentially made of as well, right? The fractals, the microcosms of the macrocosms, there's all these different layers of ourselves that are expressed in the way that we, in the beings that we relate with around us. And some of them are smaller than us and easy for us to grasp and feel really concrete and earthly, and some feel numinous and beyond us or beyond our fathom. And we're all of that too. So I feel that when we allow ourselves to be in that place, we allow for greater intimacy, we allow for greater presence, we allow for the mythic intelligence that's older than all of us, that animates all of us, that drives all of us, that animates all of life in the world, and that inspires us and moves us. We can really be attuned to that and let ourselves be moved, be compelled by that, because it is our nature. And so I see this work of coming home to ourselves, of allowing ourselves to be authentic processes that are existing as we are in all of what we are, without shaming or shunning or, self-protecting, allows us to come into a deeper sense of truth and a deeper sense of belonging with one another, and a really important, perhaps the greatest work of our time, kind of prioritization, right? Like, this is the great art of our time, is letting ourselves feel safe in community, safe in collective dynamics, repairing these wounds of separation and power dynamics, and acquainting ourselves and befriending death, so that we can not only live more fully, be more alive in our own bodies and in our immediate relationships with humans and more than human beings, but so that we can play the role that we're meant to play in this larger, more than human story that we're all part of, right? We're this bridge in what has been and what will be, and likely we can't even fathom what that will be. But I believe that we're here in this time, in this moment, in this form for a reason, and that has value, that has merit. And I choose, and hopefully you're here too, because you choose to value self-awareness, self-honor, self-love, recognizing myself as whole and nature as whole and part of that whole, and recognizing every other being around me as part of that whole, and valuing the intimacy and the presence and the life enhancing, life valuing essence that is this erotic force that moves through us, and letting ourselves be closer and more intimate, and allow ourselves to, you know, be where we are in our little cycles within the larger cycles that kind of touch all of us, right? And allow those transformations so that we're moving ourselves into deeper truth, and allowing what wants to happen that we might not be able to fully understand just happen. Yes, and let our great art and let our great aliveness in this lifetime, in this body that we're given, have the fullest possible expression that we can, so that what we're here and meant to do, what our gifts, our treasures, our acts of service, our genius, can take full expression, right? Because that's integral to the sense of aliveness for the collective, to the reintegration of the aspects of the collective that are what we might consider the shadow, that have been repressed or suppressed. And yes, I just believe that it is a really important work of our time to be as whole as we possibly can unto ourselves, and as alive as we possibly can be to ourselves. And that is exciting, that kind of awareness and sense of bliss, but not in the elevated, like, ascension kind of sense of bliss, but the bodily, earthy, rooted into the muck sense of bliss, right? That we're all of it, that we haven't denied any aspect of our wholeness, our emotions, our process, because all of it is important information that's guiding us to fullness, to that which we deserve, which is our wellness, and what we came here with genius to do and to experience, even if that is this simplicity of just being and breathing, even if it is just the simplicity of making connections with others that then light us up and light them up, and we get to see that mirroring happen. Or if it means the potent, evolutionary, revolutionary art that you feel that you're meant to do, and service that you're meant to perform in the world, all of it. So that was a really long-winded introduction, but I want to tell you a little bit about me and who I am today, especially as more of my practice, my reverent spiritual practices have kind of refined and focused my lens into understanding another layer more deeply about why I'm here and what I'm meant to do. So excuse me if this sounds a little bit like I'm reading. It's because I am. I'm still building an embodiment and a full understanding even of what it is that I'm here meant to do. And another one of my favorite authors and teachers and guides, Bill Plotkin, speaks on this, that once we begin to embody our soul purpose, or once we have a meeting with soul and we come to understand what we're here to do, it's going to be a little bit confusing and hard to understand, right? We may not even know fully what it means as we begin to embody it and perform it and find, vehicles for delivering it in service to the world. So, yes. So my name is Brie Wollman. I only go by Brie. Anne is officially my middle name, so I'm not Brianne or Brianna. My name is Brie, but it's important for you to know that my name is Brie Wollman, because part of my own spiritual growth and purpose growth, right, the evolution of understanding my purpose and what I'm here to do, really became clearer in the past year as I was beginning the work of writing a book that I'm currently developing, and was guided by one of my beloved teachers, Danielle Dulski, who's just a miraculous, another evolutionary artist, Aquarius, and a wonderful leader, to explore the meaning in my legal name. So this is an invitation for you too. But my name, Brie, can mean power, majesty, exalted, strength. And also a Brie can be considered a marshland, which is also significant, which I'll touch back on. And means favored by God or the grace of God, right? It means grace. And for me, the grace is the unknown, the mystery, the void, right? So for me, that numinosity that exists in the world, that's what Anne means. The favor of that numinousness, which feels really special to me. And then my mother's maiden name is Denote, and that means of the night. And so even though my name is Brie Wollman, I'm incorporating that because it feels significant for me. So of the night. And Wollman means dweller at the wellspring. And for me, in the last year, some of the work that I have done around connecting with my soul purpose and understanding more of what I'm here and meant to do was revealed when I was reading a book by Martine Prechtel called The Smell of Rain on Dust. And as I was reading more of the work by Bill Plotkin around Journey to Soul Initiation. And first of all, Martine Prechtel talks about the importance of the rain returning during the very dry seasons in the American Southwest, in the deserts, and how the rain would always, the dryness would always be an indication of the way that the humans were living their lives. And when the rain came, that would always be an indication of how the humans were living their lives. And to me, to be wielding of the water and rehydrating of the world, right, is taking a look at the ways that we've become dried out and dehydrated and separate and constricted and closed off to one another and fear driven, and rehydrating that with love, rehydrating that with nourishment, with vitality, with spirituality, with a sense of wonder and awe, and a sense of God, a sense of soul, right? It's a really beautiful book. I highly recommend that you read it. There's a lot in it on grief and praise or gratitude. And Bill Plotkin talks about the sort of stages of human development and maturation, which is really significant for me in that my work into who I am now began as a elementary school teacher and working with children from birth. I mean, I've always babysat and took care of really young infants, like a month-old infants and newborns in my own family, but also, worked as a caregiver, worked in early childhood schools, and then, working in elementary school, being a facilitator of the foundations of our early development and understanding how it is that we grow and evolve and mature and individuate and come into our adulthood and sense of purpose and elderhood, so that we can be those who retain a sense of culture and integrity and depth and meaning in a world that continues to change and evolve by devolving, right? And so some of what I love to talk about in my purpose is that concept of the death and the dying and the disintegration being that mechanism for the evolution, right? Because through death, we are reborn. So, yes. Anyway, Bill Plotkin talks about, hopefully you can follow me. This is part of my process. I'm very spiralescent in the way that I express myself. And so hopefully if you're here, that is because you see me and you value the way that I integrate all of these different bits of my practice and what matters to me in a way that hopefully is digestible to you. So Bill Plotkin talks about the wellspring, the artisan at the wellspring being this this stage of development that we begin to embody, this sort of archetypal, mythopoetic is the way that he describes it, right? And so if we think about poetry and mythos being the intelligence that is older than old, that animates all things, that runs underneath and behind all things, right? And is something that essentially all beings, all creation understands, right? He describes it as this mythopoetic identity or stage of embodiment. The artisan, I believe it's the artisan at the wellspring. I'll have to double check on that. But I was really moved by the fact that that particular language is what he chose after I had already developed a program of mine called the Well of Wonder, and I had created a little community for that program that was called the Wellspring Soul Gallery, and then found out that my last name means dweller at the wellspring. It just felt like magic. And one of the things I love so much about life. But, this stage is one that he talks about as being an entrance into adulthood, into maturity, right? And a step in the process of moving towards that elderhood that I think our society, our culture, our world really needs to reclaim. And, for the good of our future generations, for the good of, I'll get into more of that later. So anyway, that's what my name means. And here's a bit more about how I see that all weaving together to be the work that I offer. So I consider myself intimate with the dark. I embody the stability and the elderhood of the stars who shine in the deepest hours of the night. My art is to invite you to find similar touchstones of endurance in the wild void within your own core. I am a psychopump, and as a psychopump, I escort the soul to merge with the mysteries. I escort the soul into states of transformation, to will our own deaths, and to be reborn. As an ancestral kitchen witch and pleasure potionista, I support you in necromancing nourishment, so you might explore the wells of your life's many deaths. You might explore source. You might explore the magic of your own body well, your own desires, and swim skillfully in the alchemical, liminal marshlands that flow out in infinite directions from the fountainhead that animates us all. As a holistic witch weaver, I integrate, inviting you to move with and thread the magic and meaning that marks you in multidimensional modes so that you might continually unfold against the flesh of the world into your own infinite potentials, rebirthing endless iterations of your personal evolutions, and thereby facilitating collective evolution into a mature set of whole humans and robust cultures, bound together by the sweet synergy of a world welcoming us home. As body priestess, ritualist, word witch, and creative counsel, I invite those who desire so to breathe magic into their lives with me and into the world through a dynamic array of offerings that I craft to meet and resource and muse each one of you in your particular moment toward the transformations that emerge through intimate relationship with this wild world and bring us to a high pitch of feeling so we might know the aliveness that we deserve. And I could cry because if you know anything about my story, which I'll share a tiny little bit here, I did start out as an elementary school teacher, and I taught 5th grade for almost 10 years. And one of the things for me that I always desired the most was to support individuals in meeting their maximum potential, which is infinite. And the younger, less mature me didn't realize that using a vehicle or a system that was limiting and constrictive and only concerned with certain parameters and glass ceilings wasn't going to help those divine little creatures that we are when we are children, when we're first born and when we're so close to source and that numinosity, that God essence in the world and are unbroken by life, right? That a system that is meant to break and limit and constrict would be the avenue for that. But the artist in me as a younger self didn't know how I could transform my art, right? How I could channel my art, my love for art and beauty and the mythic intelligence that comes through art and metaphor and poetry into a sustainable career, right? In the world, in the world that we live in. Like, how do I literally make the money I need to make food fuel my body so I survive? And so I took the path of teaching because it felt like a place where I could marry the inner artist with the inner performer, with the inner teacher and guide and healer and space holder and lover and all of these aspects of me. And I'm really proud of myself that I was brave enough when I realized that that wasn't the vehicle for my purpose, that I left that, which was really hard because I had a strong sense of obligation to the younger generations. And I've come to understand that I need to point my energy in different ways in order to be of the true service, the true gift that I am, and to wield my gifts in a way that has power in the world. And so, yes, I am a practicing witch. Holistic wellness is so important to me. Aliveness is so important to me. I've explained a lot around why that is true. And I've created this space because it was really something that I was called toward. So I've been developing my dream work practice over the past year and a half or so. And recently I've been working with a client turned friend turned collaborator, Sarah Vittori. And she has recently started a podcast called Multidimensional Transmissions. And I've been on one episode that's already been published. And then there will be another episode airing next week, I believe. So I believe on Valentine's Day, I want to say on February 14th, 2023, where we talk about our dreaming practices and the kind of aliveness and magic that cultivating a relationship, an intimate relationship, a reverent devotional relationship with our dream space has provided to us. And so much so that we've created a program that we're really excited about that we're beginning in April of this year. So there's more information on all of that and all of my offerings here in the classwork section of this group in the event that you desire to explore those things. This is a place where you will be able to, so let me backtrack a little bit. So recently in my dream work practice, right, where I dream and I record my dreams and I look at what the dream messages are communicating to me, this message really strongly came through that I value community and I value intimacy and I value whatever collective genius is being born through us in the tension of this time, right? Lots of tensions and lots of breakdowns have been happening in the world at the very least since 2020, probably much longer, like centuries longer before that. But more recently in this technological age, with those of us who are, adept at social media and utilizing it and becoming digital nomads in the way that we, perform our work in our art and build our businesses and sustain ourselves, how we sustain ourselves, deliver our art and relate to one another in the world. We've really been hit like loudly, like it's been a sort of an explosion, an eruption of destructive chaos that we can feel like really ripping apart what has been, I would say pretty loudly. 2020 and beyond. I know for me, it was a really bold moment of transformation that's led me to the very moment that I'm in now. But this dream really brought into the recognition that I needed to offer something for free and that it was really important to me to remember that I've been brewing this for several months, like over the course of the winter, beginning around the void season, beginning around Samhain, or, all Hallows Eve, All Souls Day, All Saints Day, right? The witches' New Year, this time, Halloween, this time of year where everything dies. And so in the death portal, in the death incubation, in the incubation of the deepest part of the night of the year, and through that reverence for dreaming and receiving the wisdom of the night, right? Because our dreaming is literally the wisdom of the dark, the wisdom of the subconscious, the wisdom of the numinous, the wisdom of the void, the wisdom of that pure creation energy that animates all things. It has been telling me that I need to offer myself and my voice and my gifts in a way that can reach more people, and in a way that also serves me, because I'm no longer interested in bypassing myself or giving more of myself than I truly authentically desire, or pretending that it's okay for me to point my energy and attention in places that just don't feel authentic for me, and that what I do choose to offer gets to be seen, heard, of value, does get to touch and move and inspire others and muse them to their own sense of aliveness and genius. It gets to be valued. It gets to be prioritized. It gets to be something that others who, are receiving it are willing to put in the work to receive. And with what they receive, they're willing to continue doing work with it, that it's not something cheap, and it's not something superficial, and it's not something to be easily consumed and discarded. And so that's part of the reason why this is happening on this kind of a platform in this way too. So the social media is wonderful in so many ways and terrible in so many ways. And it's really challenging to be someone that I believe is a meaningful channel, right? A meaningful well of wisdom that is a tap into the wellspring, the great wellspring of wonder that unites us all, that great numinous source energy, that primordial pool of creation energy. I consider myself to be a tap to that. And I'm no longer closing myself off to that. I've been, consciously choosing to enhance and develop my psychic gifts, my ability to be in fluent relationship with and to speak that mother tongue. And it's important that I then share that with the rest of the world, because I know that we all have those moments where we question, where we lose trust, we lose faith, we wonder what's the point of it all. This was a very huge theme of my last year. And I believe that last year in and of itself was its own sort of dark time, its own death, its own metamorphosis, its own transformative alchemical period for me that really wanted to take me this level deeper into my soul purpose and all the things that I love and am turned on by, and that I choose to prioritize in my everyday life, that get to be things that I share with others and that have meaning for more than just me. Excuse me. My voice is telling me yes. We're clearing some of this stuff out of the way. Yes. So, social media is wonderful, but it puts a lot of limits and constrictions and restrictions on the capacity for what matters. And it's pouring outside right now. It puts a lot of restrictions and parameters and contorts this wisdom that is sacred, that is older than old, that is nature-based, creation-based, right? That exists within all of us, into that which is the overculture, the patriarchy, the consumerism, the capitalism, all the things that make it hard for make it hard for it to be seen on purpose, right? Because if we're whole and well and sovereign and also intimate and united with one another, and we're willing to be in our vulnerability, and we're brave and we're resilient, and we have hacked the codes on cycles of death and transformation and rebirth, and we don't fear that and shun that anymore, how are we controllable? How does that benefit the systems that be, which are deteriorating as we speak, as you listen? So I chose not to host this group on social media because, first of all, I've become a little disenchanted with social media. It can be enchanting and I can empower it, and I love it in many ways, but there's something to the simplicity of this platform that I love, that takes away some of the fluff and the over efforting that is asked of us, that then becomes a distraction, just like so many of the things in our world. It's like, pay attention to this, ping, pay attention to this. No, you have to do this. No, you have to do that. You have to bend yourself this way and twist yourself that way. And it wastes a lot of our time, and it keeps us away from feeling our bodies and feeling our emotions and feeling truth and feeling the divine. And so I love the simplicity for that. And I love that it means that it gets to be off social media. So you don't have to deal with ads, and you don't have to look at what, your ex-husband, ex-partner, your neighbor, your aunt are saying on social media in order to get to this, right? You don't have to go on to Facebook in order to get to the group and then get distracted by 45 million other things in the process. And it means to me a level of devotion that I desire in my relationships. So in order to be here, you have to choose to be here. You have to actively work to be here, because it's not going to, stroke and stoke your dopamine supplies the way that social media does by, being that cheap, fast, superficial. And it can be wonderful, right? I'm not trying to say this in a denigrating way. I'm saying it in an almost objective way, that the way that it works is to give you faster bits of stimulus all the time, and keep that dopamine like refreshing itself in your body. And so it becomes like a drug that we literally become addicted to. And it does distract, and it does pull you away from focus. And I consider myself to be a really intentional person, a really body aware person, a really mentally aware person. I have a very typical, for whatever that whatever that means in this day and age, but a very typically functioning brain. Learning is very easy for me. Self-awareness has been relatively, a priority for me, something that I've practiced and honed over the past at least 7-8 years, if not for my whole life, because I've always been described as someone who's like an old soul and mature. So I think I've been pretty self-aware all of my life, to certain detriments and certain benefits. But this space then becomes something that you choose to come to because it nourishes you, because it fuels you. And I'm more concerned with the quality of the experiences and the exchanges, and the potential for intimacy and aliveness that can emerge, and that sense of communitas that can emerge, right? The very spirit of community and the very spirit of a sense of belonging to the sacred that exists within us and between us, and can emerge in those moments that we choose to relate to one another, as what this space is about, and how it feeds you and fuels you. And that means a sacrifice. So one of the things that we talk about in witchcraft, so I'm a practicing witch. If you didn't catch the witch bit before, one of the things that we talk about in our witchcraft is that every spell needs a sacrifice. And the greater the sacrifice, the greater the reward, right? Because choosing to sacrifice something for the thing that we're choosing to put our attention on, and we're choosing to raise energy around, and we're choosing to cast a container to brew and build that energy within, and we're choosing to infuse into wherever we're focusing. That is what allows that, once we release that out into the world, allows that to be that touchstone that has planted that seed of our intentions and the potency of what we truly desire, what we truly value, what we truly will prioritize, fight for, stand up for, keep turning our attention back to again and again, to really flourish and blossom into the fullness of that flower or fruit, right? Something that enamors our sense of wonder and beauty and innocence and aliveness, and also the thing that nourishes us, right? The fruit, the thing that actually satiates us and can be pleasurable as well, but fuels us and allows us to keep going and to be full and to be to have capacity for more of those kinds of relationships and choices and intentions to keep planting and to keep growing and to come to fruition. So I wanted this to be a space that you have to choose to have. You know, it's pretty convenient, I must say. I think that Google Classroom is a really simple, convenient, easy to use tool. You can download an app for it on your phone. You can work with it through Google on your computer. So if you go up to the little Google grid in the corner, you can find Google Classroom as one of the apps there. And it's really easy to have it on your mobile device as something that is just like a Facebook or just like an Instagram. And you can choose to set the notifications how you desire. So you get to decide how many notifications you get from this space. But for me, it feels like a platform that's simple enough, that's accessible enough. It integrates with a lot of the other features that I use, like my scheduling calendar and the capacity to use Meet and record videos like this and upload them easily for you. And I like the way that it's organized, so I can put in different sections in the classwork area for you to easily get to, like, hey, I'm really excited about that DreamWork program that Brie is talking about. Let me go find out more about that. And maybe make it a little bit easier for you to find the ways to breathe magic with me. But mostly it's signaling to me that you value my arts and you value yourself enough to invest in sacrificing attention on social media or some other thing that you're pointing your awareness toward, to be here and to be engaging with this community and allowing to be born what wants to be born by those of us who choose to be here and choose to let something emerge in the space between us. So, yes, that feels really good. So yes, I've been brewing this, and it's something that I've really wanted to do for, at the very least, since the start to the winter here in this last the last year, 2022, bleeding into 2023. And I was met with more nudges through the dreams and through just my my thought processes yesterday that said, this is the thing that we need to do. And I went back and forth with, like, do I need to make it a paid, thing? And I've decided that so I'll let you in on a secret. And I'll invite you to hold the vision with me, if you will. I'll invite you to do that and offer my gratitude as an offering to you if you choose to hold the vision with me, because that helps to amplify it for me. And that matters a lot. If you're amplifying my vision, that means that it's getting more charge, which means that it's getting more power source to come to fruition. And this is a practice that witches do all the time. This is why we choose to be in covens together, because the the collective helps to sort of raise that energy automatically, right? Holding all those minds and bodies, sensing and thinking and visioning and emoting all together, right? That is like a spark of robust energy bursting forth, like a spark, like a lightning bolt. And it doesn't require me to do a whole lot of work to make that energy raise, because you're doing it with me. And I'll offer my gratitude and also say that by choosing to do that, by choosing to hold the vision of another, you're thereby choosing to enhance and magnify and facilitate your own visions too, because our visions are meant to be nourishment for us, but they're also fractals of the collective, right? And so what we desire for ourselves, we get to choose, we get to make that something we desire for the whole as well. And know that when I am working some spell for my well-being, I'm working some spell for the greater well-being. So yes. So I choose for this space to be this synergistic free space where the exchange isn't currency, it isn't money. This exchange is the intimacy. The exchange is soul. The exchange is your heart. The exchange is the texture of your emotional being at the moment, or your energetic being at the moment. It's the texture of your own artistry. It's the texture of your body being in any moment. It's what's alive for you. It's what you care about. It's what you value and prioritize. And by that being in exchange, you let me see you. And by letting me see you, you let me see myself. And so my vision, this is a vision that I cast for myself on the full moon, which was I cast it just before the full moon, but I cast it between the quickening, or the exact cross quarter day between winter solstice and the spring equinox, and the full moon, which I just fucking love. And if you don't like my obscenities, too bad, because I love language and I love to be articulate, but sometimes you just need to add that extra oomph of the F word. So I fucking love that I decided to hold this spell casting container right nested in the space between the quickening cross quarter day and the dawn of the full moon, the full quickening moon, because this time is one of the seeds stirring under the soil, saying something is alive within you, and something alive within you wants to be born eventually. And it's about coming into the awareness of what wants you and what you truly want. It's the beginnings of desire energy and fire magic and manifestation magic. And so it's really like the new year energy. It's really like that forward moving energy beginning. And I love that it was nested between the two, because to me, the space between two things, right, is that place where genius is born, where something other is a merging of the two, and it's distinct in and of itself as well. And it's that primordial pool, source energy, all creation energy place where the unknown sparks its own spirit and has its own life that we can't control, but that just sort of erupts, right? If we think about like the masculine and the feminine coming together to birth a child, it's that same kind of essence. These two hold the space for the third to emerge. So I love, yay me. Go me. I didn't do that consciously. I just went with, this feels like the moment. And now reflecting back on it, I'm really excited about the fact that that was when it decided to be nested. But my vision that I chose to seed in a spell in this space between the quickening and the quickening full moon is one where I have a wild home on wild land that is on the edge of some sort of chasm in the land, reminding me that what is born in the spaces between, what is born in the wound, is the treasure, is the wonderful, is the numinous, is the miraculous. Mm. And I see myself and my partner and wild children that we make and wild water that flows in surrender to gravity and reminds me of the medicine of surrender and flow and the power of water, right? The power of water that is soft, that is flexible, that always seeks the lowest ground, the lowest resolution, right? Just seeks resolution with itself, always seeks a way back to ocean level, to home, to the origin of all life, but is also powerful enough to carve rock. And this land is hugged by the trees. And there are rose gardens that I've cultivated by my own hand. And there are vegetable gardens that are grown by my own hand and that of my family that are organic, that feed my body and the bodies of the humans that are magnetized to me, to my land, and to my arts. And that there is a supply, a surplus that I get to share with my neighbors and those in need. And this wild land holds creatures, human and more than, and holds space for dancing and space for ritual and space for the medicine of intimate relationship with plants and the ways that they want to nourish and heal and whole us and care for us as we also steward and care for them. And it's a place for art. And it's a place for transformation. It's a place for coming apart and rebraiding back together. It's a place for our roots. It's a place for divinity. It's a place for our authenticity, our wildness, our wholeness in every possible way. And it gets to be a place that is full of the earth element and full of the wondrous gifts and resources of nature, stones and soil and trees and roots and green leaves and lush greenery all around, because to me, green is the true abundance. Green is the true wealth, lushness and multiple life forms and robust ecosystems. That's the true wealth to me. Robust communities. And it gets to be a place where I have space for prioritizing my family, my peace, my art, my solitude, my sacred, reverent, devotional practices that I choose to do solitarily in the intimacy of my own space, with my own magical tools, with my own magical body, with my own guides and ancestors and descendants. And it gets to be a wild place that invites more opportunity for community in person, for collective mirroring and collective transformation and collective genius and collective aliveness and collective wellness to emerge and to be in process and to be authentic. Exactly as it is, as it wants to be, as it's meant to be. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Yeah, it is done. So thank you for holding the tension of that vision with me. And I hope to some extent you see yourself in it, somewhere in it. Or maybe it inspires you just to hold space for whatever your own visions are that long for you, that want to emerge. And I hope that you'll care to stay in this space and to participate in this space, because truly, the investment that we choose to pour into something is directly what we get out of it. And I hope that this space will be one that feels safe and feels enlivening and feels delicious and turns you on and moves you to demand of your life what you deserve, and to be brave enough to put action steps into place to make it so, and know that all of creation desires that for you too. Because when you are more alive, when you are in your robust authenticity and the expansiveness of your being, you're exactly where you're meant to be, and you're performing your purpose, your ecological role, the role that only you can perform in this lifetime, in this place, with the gifts that you have. And that is essential. It is so needed, and is part of the larger story that we are all braiding into being. So that's it. That's it. Thank you for being here. If you got through all of this, then I know that you're someone who's devoted to these concepts, these sensations, these birthrights. And yes, this will be a space where I show up in authentic outpouring. So I won't bow to urgency. I've done so much of that in my life. I won't bypass myself in order to be of service in this space. This is a genuine community where I desire for there to be equity and synergy, right? Where I get to receive the nourishment of your being here, and of hosting this space, and of facilitating in this space, as much as you do by choosing to be here and participating in the space too, as you receive from me and from each other. This isn't a place for me to be in my martyr mother role, or this over efforting teacher role that I've played in my life too. And it gets to be a space that's mutual nourishment, where there is no waste. Everything that is expended is nourishment for the other. And there's just this alignment, this I'm not going to say alignment. There is this bondedness in the rhythms of nature, and a sacred dance that we are all embodying and partnering each other through. So I will show up here when it feels generative too. I hope that you will as well. And yeah, if you want to reach me in any of it, about anything, you're welcome to post here. I don't believe there's a private messaging factor, but you can always email me. Email me is always well tended by me. And you can always schedule time with me if there are things that you want to digest or explore further. If you go to the classwork section, there you can see all of the different ways to work with me, and all of the most current things that I'm brewing and that are emerging through me and are in process. So you can drop into those if you desire. I'll make sure that there's a way for you to schedule like a free info chat with me too, if you want to talk about any specific things, which could be, I'm curious about your Well of Wonder program, or I'd really love to know more about Erotic Empress, or I'm considering a one-to-one, but I'm not sure if this feels like a good match. Do you think that you can support me with this thing? We can have a little info chat about any of the offerings that I'm currently tending and providing that way as well. So you can always email me things, but if you want more of this kind of like face-to-face time to kind of work some things out, we can do it that way. Is there anything else? I don't think so. I hope that you felt moved by something in my transmission today and anything about my essence. And thank you for seeing me, and thank you for witnessing my vision and holding that in your heart as well, and co-visioning it, co-dreaming it with me. I really do desire for this to be a space for us to co-dream, co-create, and for genius to be born through us so that we can continue to nurture those transformations that are enlivening for us and for the collective and for the world story. So I'll be excited to see you here more, and in any other ways that we get to connect through the web and in person someday. One thing that I did want to mention is that I'm currently living in the Pacific Northwest. I live in Washington State, in just outside the city of Vancouver, or like on the edges of Vancouver, and the Pacific Northwest is just some of the most magical land that drew me here for my purpose, for the moment that you're just witnessed me in now. And I am originally from Connecticut. I was born and raised there, and I lived there until I was 30 years old. I'm currently 37, turning 38 in April. And this land is really a treasure. And so there are moments in the future where I will be in the Northeast visiting family, performing some of my work. So if we get a chance to connect in New England, then that will be. And I believe that my partner and I will be transitioning back to that part of the country, of the United States, in the next couple of years here, as we consider building our own family and being closer to our parents and our siblings, who are all stationed or returning to New England as well. But in the meantime, if you find yourself in the Pacific Northwest, I highly recommend coming to travel out here, because it is just magical. And I'll try to share some of those kinds of bits in here too, the magic of the land of the Pacific Northwest. Robin Wall Kimmerer, who wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, has a beautiful chapter about the Pacific Northwest. And I cried when I read it, because she described it so beautifully, and all of its magic, all of its wonder. And I'm so blessed that I've been held by this land and got to witness the majesty and the magic, and that it's facilitated my transformation. So I highly recommend that you find your way out to the Pacific Northwest. And if you do, please tell me, so that I can take you to waterfalls and we can connect and we can do magic together. I can't guarantee that all of it will be purely friendly, because some of the things that I offer are my art, are my service that does feel like it deserves some monetary exchange sometimes. But we could talk about that if that's a thing that you ever are planning to do. So yes, email me if you need me for anything. I will receive notifications when you show up here. My email is Briething, Briething, so breathing like my name, .magick, Magick, @gmail.com. You can always find me there. You're more than welcome to follow me and friend me on Facebook and Instagram if you are not already somebody who does that. And yeah, there's an initial post below this one, which is your welcome video, around Communitas and what that means, and some initial ponderings for us as you get acquainted to this space. I will also have some additional posts around why you're here and what it is that you value and what's alive for you, and themes that you might want me to talk about, because I do want to know what it is that you care about in this time and what resources and skills and gifts I have that can touch upon that. And that also opens up the gifts and magic of others who want to show up to meet you as well in what matters to you. So look out for those, engage in those. And I will also have a post that'll most likely be in classwork, but also in the feed, that is just a like a basic community guideline set of parameters kind of thing. Just these are the things that we agreed to. If there's anything that you don't agree to, then you can reach out to me. Or if there's some blind spot that I have where I missed something that feels important, then you can let me know about that. And my community guidelines are always things that are a living, breathing entity that need to evolve and respond to the community that is there. So they can always change and evolve, and they should with who we are as we grow and change and evolve. So I will likely have an initial document that proclaims like the basic guidelines that I can think of, and opens up space and an invitation for you to share anything that I've missed or that is of value to you, so that I can add those bits to that guiding document for us all to make sure that we refer back to as we engage with one another lovingly here. So yes, that feels complete. I will see you soon. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to take on this journey together, this ongoing relationship, this living, breathing relationship together. Mwah! All the love and all the blessings, and I'll see you soon.